We are going to do this in a two-parter because this is going to bring us to Ro Khanna. So here is the initial setup to the conversation that Ro had with Katie Halper.
No, Tucker, you see this with Trump and the MAGA movement, and you've definitely seen it with a lot of these supposedly radical candidates who became adjacent to the Democratic Party, is you can think that you're taking over these parties in order to like commandeer them and their power to change their dogma to yours. But infinitely more likely for so many reasons is that it will commandeer you and it will suck you in and it will severely limit, even if you have radical ideas or impulses or outside of the norm or anti-establishment thoughts, will severely limit your ability to advocate them and to impose them.
That is the most bracing fact. And I'm glad you said that, but I'm also sort of sorry you said that because it's so depressing. Do you see, I mean, is there anywhere, and I almost hate to use the word radical because I think this is also reasonable and pro-human, like don't fight wars if you don't have to. Don't, you know, lie to your own population. These are not radical. They should be like foundational beliefs. But anyway, they're radical in this context of our politics.
Exactly.
But do you see any movement, actual reform movement rising out of the betrayal of MAGA and the corruption of everyone else?
I mean, the problem is that our system of government has been constantly fortified each decade to make it harder and harder to exist outside of the duopoly. Yeah. And the reason is obvious, that all politicians are either members of the Republican or Democratic Party, and one of their most common interests is to make sure that you only have the Democratic and Republican Party, and that it's virtually impossible for anyone to compete in a meaningful way with it. And so,
can we just stop and address that for a second? Can we address the fact that regardless of what Tucker is going to try, regardless of what anybody else is going to try, you will never, in this current incarnation of the American experiment, you will never be able to create another system within the electoral system, because the Democrats and Republicans, when push comes to shove, will always unite to crush any type of a third-party movement, any type of an alternative to this current system. The only way out of it is a revolution. Jen?
Well, they're the same. It's the corporate party. The corporate party, which is, I mean, we need to, I like how the Iranian leadership has been referring to it as the Epstein class, because that's what we're talking about here. And the Epstein class is in control, and it doesn't matter what party. The parties are just the circuses of the bread and circuses. It's silly. It's really silly. And so the idea, and Tucker looks so serious, like he's learning something new. And I think that, he's an opportunist, but this isn't news to me. It's all silly. Just like you're not going to get any changes from the boot on your neck with the boot on your neck. The person who's doing that isn't going to work with you.
No. That
just doesn't make any sense. So that's like trying to reform the police. You're not going to do that. You can't do that. Just like you're not going to change the duopoly. It's not going to happen.
So every law that gets passed, every time there's election laws rewritten, every time it's in the direction of making it increasingly more difficult for any kind of independent party or movement, a third party that wants to remain independent of both parties, to have any meaningful success.
Now, we bring this up because a primary topic of conversation that came up was both MAGA and what that has resulted in with the Republican Party, obviously the split now being the growing movement of America First and what that's going to look like, which I think is going to have more of a middle split between progressives and libertarians in particular. We'll see if it comes to fruition. And then, of course, you have the DSA, which is their attempt to take over the Democratic Party as it stands right now. We see what's happening with the pumping up. In fact, Jen, right before we went live, or right after we went live, I should say, the DSA dropped a message basically saying that they are pushing for AOC to run for president. So that's not a surprise. This is something that we fully anticipated. Yeah.
Good luck with that.
something we fully anticipated. The only other person who's going to run for president that is going to garner any type of support, if you want to call it that, is Ro Khanna. And he has been given ample opportunity to distinguish himself from AOC, and he has had the opportunity to do it, and he's failed every time. Miserably, I might add. He sat down for an interview with Katie Halper, and she kind of gave him an opportunity to have a mulligan. And this is how he responded to her inquiries.
The House and Senate have included such a proposal in the annual defense policy bill, laying the groundwork for melding, Freudian slip, U.S. and Israeli defense and intelligence capabilities in profound ways that some critics find alarming, end quote. You are one of those critics, Ro, I imagine. What should people know about the development, and what do you find alarming?
I was one of 3 people in the Armed Services Committee to oppose the Section 219. That would basically be an end run against the Leahy Law in foreign sales. You now basically are saying that Israel and America can jointly produce all these weapons. So you don't even need Congress. Once there's a memorandum of understanding, if there's joint production, we are integrated with the Israeli military, and our elected officials lose the power to really change that. So we need to strip this out of the National Defense Authorization. When the American public wants us to do with less with Israel, only the United States Congress would say, let's do more. But this is a Netanyahu ruse to say, okay, we don't want.
All right. I don't know why this clip is so long. It could be half of this. We don't even need this portion of it, quite honestly. This is silly. I don't know what he is blabbing about. Okay. He's pathetic. This whole part is, I don't know how long this goes on for. What does he want? He wants a gold star. You want a gold star, Ro, because you thought maybe it wasn't a good idea to merge our militaries together, even though you still defend them having an Iron Dome, and even though you don't defend Palestinians having a right to defend themselves. See, I don't want to hear this. This wasn't what we were going to talk about. So forward to where he gets into where
he's going to get into it in a second. Just
okay, because this is a little bit
aid, but let's just have joint production on the weapons.
And what kind of increased integration is this? Because as many people have pointed out, they're already quite integrated. So what makes this new?
Well, this has a joint.
Switching gears, although it's related, Michigan, obviously this was shocking to some people, disturbing to some people, but there was that primary election of Abdul al-Sayed, despite being outspent by some accounts 11-1 by AIPAC, and related pro-Israeli dark money PAC. So is this a bellwether race? And what do you think it's signaling about where voters are going and how it is being received? And how is it being received in Washington, D.C.?
Medicare for all, a willingness to tax billionaire wealth. And so this is showing that the progressives can win. I mean, the knock on progressives was always, oh, can you win in swing states? Well, yes, we can. And we're going to, the energy of the party is with us.
Right. Now, do you think, by the way, on a related note, that AIPAC should be forced to register under FARA, the Foreign Agents Registration Act?
I do not.
Okay, strike one.
I do not.
I do not. Why? Because they're Americans. So if it was the American Chinese Action Committee and they were all American of Chinese descent, but they were wanting to create legislation beneficial to China, would you feel that way? I think not.
Yeah.
I don't take any money from AIPAC, and AIPAC has attacked me, I think, more than any member of Congress.
There's your
but my
second
view
star.
is that these are American citizens who are advocating for a viewpoint that I strongly disagree with. I don't take any money for them, obviously. I banter with them or parry their blows all the time. But I still would meet with people in my district who I know they're American citizens. They're hardworking. They don't vote for me. But
you just gave the whole game away. What you've effectively said, Ro, is that I represent, and Ro does represent, I believe, the 3rd or 4th most affluent district in the entire country. His district is South San Francisco. It is extremely wealthy, extremely affluent, and extremely Zionist in many pockets. And this man wants to be president of the United States. So as a result, he is not going to ruffle any of the pro-Israel donors' feathers by suggesting something as simple as maybe you should do what every other foreign interest group has to do in the United States, and that's register under FARA. But no, let's continue to prove that people think that the Jews are chosen people and that they are above reproach. They could do whatever they want. And in this case, when it comes to supporting the state of Israel, they can continue to pump as much money into the system as humanly possible. And that is not even addressing the genocide. That is only addressing the sheer corruption of their ideology and their institutional control over our country. You add the genocide into this equation, and he still wants to play this game. Why would anybody think that still playing this game makes any sense? As public domain says, Ro is positioning. Positioning for what? What are you trying to do at this point?
Toe a line. That's all they can do. They suck. He sucks. And this interview is this segment is too long. But
if they reach out, that's their right. That's a democracy. And,
No,
I
it's-
go everywhere and talk to anyone in the pursuit of practicing
how
democracy.
enlightened of you.
You very bravely went on a fact-finding mission last month to the
And 22-year-olds with guns be compromised. And we cannot
And then he
and
came
you
back.
maintain that Israel should still have access to U.S.
is great,
weapons,
this is
though
perfect.
limited to defensive weapons. And again, this caught the attention of a lot of people. So I
Right.
want to know, do you maintain your position that Israel should have legal access to U.S. weapons after and while they're committing what you've called a genocide?
Well, what I said is zero aid, zero military sales that are.
You see, ladies and gentlemen, there's this thing in politics called obfuscation. And that is exactly what Ro is doing here. He wants to throw, well, I said they can't have this and they can't have that. And they also can't have this, but they can have their weapons. So he's setting it up to suggest that I'm really against these people. But when the real rubber hits the road, then you understand how he's never going to cross that line.
And this is now Katie is actually giving him an opportunity to kind of look a little bit, save a little face from how bad he looked when Jeremy Scahill ripped him a new asshole. And instead, he's just doubling down on it. So he is just appearing so pitiful and so cowardly. And it's just, yeah, keep it up, bro. Keep it up.
Weapons used to kill civilians. I'm a co-sponsor on the Stop the Bombs Act. I've supported all of Senator Sanders' amendments. But the question I was asked is, would you have a global arms embargo on Israel getting Iron Dome? And I said no for two reasons.
I don't care what your reasons are.
No, but let him say, because Katie then makes a very good follow-up question.
One, I don't think America should be enforcing it. Like, are we literally going to be stopping other countries from selling Israel Iron Dome? That's getting into a foreign entanglement.
That's every other
And
country.
secondly, they're Israeli lives. They're and American lives, 700,000 Americans, and I'm for protecting civilian life, whether that is Palestinian, whether it's Indian, whether it's Jordanian, whether it's Israeli. But what I have clearly said is that I'm opposed to any military sales to kill civilians, and I'm opposed to all aid.
But I mean, I understand the defensive nature in theory of the Iron Dome, but given that you yourself have said that they are committing a genocide, isn't, like, if you use an analogy, like a guy who is stabbing people, walking down the street, stabbing people, if we give that guy a shield, even if it's defensive, like, we are now complicit in his criminality, right? So isn't that what we would be doing? Selling the guy a shield to continue the analogy?
I believe that the Israeli government has committed a genocide, but that doesn't mean that the 700,000 Americans living there or the Israeli civilians living there, including Israeli Arabs, should suffer death if their missiles launched there. And
The percentage of Israelis, American or not, living in Israel proper is in pretty much the 85 to 90 percentile that not only agree with the Netanyahu Milikowski government, there is a large majority proportion of that voting demographic that doesn't think he's gone far enough.
Oh, yeah.
The only way Netanyahu is going to be removed, and I use that term loosely, from office is if somebody even more psychotic than he is put in the position of authority.
Well, that's what we
There's
like
no-
to do. That's our MO. So that's what we did in Iran. We want to take out the more moderate people and put in the more psychopathic people. That's what we do everywhere we go. So why? But it's amazing to me. And he's a smart guy. Ro Khanna is not an idiot. You know, if we were watching Alex, it's hard because she's not that bright. He's bright. So I don't understand how he can sit there and thread the needle between supporting the Iron Dome as a defensive weapon, but not see how ultimately it's offensive against the Palestinians who have no recourse. Because who are they defending themselves with that Iron Dome? Not the Palestinians. The Palestinians aren't armed. So I don't understand how he is able to do this, other than he's sinister, because he's not stupid. So then he
No.
must be nefarious, correct?
Or he doesn't have any guts.
Or he's been threatened.
Oh, I'm sure he's been threatened, obviously.
Well, maybe they made him an offer he can't refuse. I don't know.
Whatever it isn't going to be one person. It's going to be millions that will ultimately take down the system. That's just the way it's going to be.
I also don't understand what the U.S. would do in terms of, like, would we want to have American warships basically trying to block any missiles from coming into Israel? I mean, I don't think we should be going into wars over this. I think we should be pushing for a peace process, and we should be recognizing a Palestinian state. We should be stopping our aid. Today, Yunnan Levy was indicted. His group is the one who detained me. We should be calling for extremist settlers to be arrested, destroying outposts. There are a lot of things that we can do that would, in my view, have an immediate impact on Palestinian lives.
What you just saw is an interview with somebody who does not have the courage of his convictions. He's not willing to stand on any particular principle that would in any way jeopardize his position. And that's the difference between somebody like Ro Khanna and somebody like Thomas Massie. Ro Khanna is not willing to be politically martyred. Massie was, and he lost his position. Now, I imagine he's going to come back and fight even harder, but we will see what ultimately ends up happening as a result. I think Jen's connection bonked out, but she'll be back in a minute, I hope. But let's be realistic here. You know, Ro is going to run for president, and he probably has had conversations with the type of people that could help fund his campaign, and he knows where the line is, and he's not going to cross it. If that's enough for somebody who's a Democrat or a Democratic voter, okay. But remember this, the Democratic Party has super delegates in their presidential primary process, and that's not going away. And they are corporate sponsors of the party.
I'm on my Starlink. We'll see what happens. I'm having this. The storm came through. We lost power for a second. The internet came back on, but some issues. So I'm giving you the heads up.
All right. Well, here's hoping for the best. Point is,
I'm on Starlink, and Elon's not necessarily a fan of ours, so we'll see.
Elon is definitely not a fan of ours, but that's okay. Never drive a Tesla. Ever.
No, Ro Khanna did not mess with me, but I did miss my bong hit, so I got to take it.
Well, at least you were able to get that down. Ro is not going to be the fighter that you think he is. He is certainly if I could say one positive thing about Ro Khanna, he is much more presidential than AOC could ever be. If there is a person who's
he's not patently unqualified like she is. She's so ridiculously out of her element, and just so unqualified. He's not unqualified. He's just mealy-mouthed coward. And that is just, it's not going to sell. It's not going to sell. There's not enough charisma to overcome lack of policy, and there's not enough there. So it's going to fall flat. Alex is going to fall flat for completely other reasons, because she has no substance and she's not that bright. She also can't speak off from the hip. So that's a problem for someone who's running for office. If you can't speak without teleprompter or a speechwriter, you're out of your element. You're out of your element.
Out of your element, Donnie.
Yeah.
And you are not the walrus.
No.
There is a reason why we hammer Ro as hard as we do, because he is the best hope that the Democrats, the progressive Democrats have in this moment. But you have to remember.
He's not a progressive.
No.
And I
But
agree,
that's-
Lila. That's what I say all the time. She will be Kamala level fail. Actually, I think it'll be even uglier because Kamala wasn't liked ever to begin with. So people liked Alex to begin with.
Like I said, Alex is running to be the prom queen, and at the same time thinks that that means becoming president of the United States, the Madam President of the United States. Let me assure you, the first Madam President of the United States is not going to talk and act like she does.